This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSPORT Fan Network.
TalkSPORT. Powered by fans.
Styles with a save. Trent for the second here. A classic counter-attack, and Gibbs White puts Nottingham Forest 2 ahead. Here's Wood. 1-0 Forest. Has made an even bigger difference there. Nottingham Forest have snatched the lead at Anfield.
Hello, welcome to this edition of Red Side of the Trent, here to present you Seb Hutchinson, who is commentating on our game against West Ham ahead of our fixture there. Seb, how are you first of all?
I'm good, Adam. Said you're looking fresh.
Thank you. I mean, even my wife didn't say that this morning to me, so
outrageous.
You're in the good books. Great to have you on against Seb. As I said to you, actually, in our messages, if this was still Soccer AM, you'd get a hat-trick ball of some sort. So, I don't know, we'll try and sort maybe a mug out or something. You can start promoting the pod a little bit. But no, great to see you. How was your summer, first of all?
Yeah, it was broken into 3 parts because the season ended and then there was about a month before I then did the Women's Euros. And then there was about 3 weeks after the Women's Euros as well. So it was broken into 3 parts, I would say.
How was the experience of the Women's Euros? Obviously, they went back-to-back winning it in kind of circumstances that you wouldn't expect the women's team to do, because they are quite a good team, but they won a lot of games on penalties. It's similar to Forest FA Cup run last season, to be fair.
Except they went all the way, sorry. No, I think they were... It felt very un-England in the sense that usually a lot of those matches that England got through, they usually wouldn't, in our memories of watching England play football. They would lose those games, and they didn't. They got through match after match, which they were expecting to lose. And I think that's what made it, you know, if you have a team and they romp through a competition or are dominating any competition, be it a league or a cup, I think it does take away a little bit of the memories of that. And I only say that in the sense of context, because think of Liverpool last season. They won the league, but because it was wrapped up relatively early, it takes away a bit of that joy, that moment that you get from winning something in style. And I think with the way this one happened, just when you thought they were down, they pulled you back in. And that feeling is probably one of the best feelings in football. And we experienced it about 3 or 4 times in that competition. And that's what made it a great competition to work on.
No, that's great to hear. I know you got glowing reviews for your passion for the commentary and everything, so that's always great to hear. Now, I always think you're one of the great commentators actually that of our modern era, considering we've had so many good ones in the past. You kind of think, who's going to replace them? And then people like yourself come along and make it enjoyable for viewers at home, although I do tend to go to the games quite a lot, so I have to rewatch a lot of your commentary on YouTube or whatever. I wanted to...
What's your address again, Adam, for that envelope? We agreed before.
Yeah, that's it. I'm sorry. I just wanted to get into Forest from the summer, first of all, Seb. Obviously, Marinakis was in the headlines, as he always is, for a lot of different reasons. I wanted your opinion on the cast kind of thing and maybe the Gibbs White situation, because it was a heavy topic of the summer. I think it's quite unusual, and I would love a neutral's point of view on it.
I think when the dust settles, I mean, when it settles, we don't know. Weirdly, it could settle by both teams going out of Europe early. That will be that, won't it? It will be interesting if either side actually goes on to win their respective competitions. That could add an extra layer to it, and there'll be, that side of it that some supporters like to get involved in. As I look at it overall, I actually think both clubs have shown power plays. I think they've both shown how they want to compete in this space, which feels quite crowded when your club's trying to compete with the clubs towards the top end of the league or the clubs that are throwing their weight around with money. You have to decide as a football club how you're going to progress and how you're going to go about things. And I think in Forest and Palace's case, they've done it in slightly different ways. What I've actually admired both clubs overall in how they've come out of this, because ultimately, from Forest's point of view, I think Marinakis has become a figure in football that has created a story around Forest, which has had people interested in Forest. Now, that might seem quite a simple thing to say, but put it this way, you don't want to be the club that's treated as nobody pays attention to your results, nobody really watches your games. You want to be a team that neutrals are watching your games, that haters are watching your games. And Forest traditionally been a club that don't have many haters around the country. But if you can create an edge to your team or a talking point, then people want to say, I have to see Forest game this weekend. I think Marinakis has played a big part in that, actually. I think he's created I wouldn't say an identity because he's his own man, but he's given talking points around the club that have people interested. I mean, the fact is what we're leading with here is a big part of that. Usually for most clubs to just be talking about what's the injury status ahead of the weekend, who we link to in the transfer window. But Forest have provided so many stories outside of that, and that's what's made it really interesting. I don't think I've been able to not pay attention to those stories this summer. And that's been quite good, because I do find transfer stuff quite dull and repetitive. And I do find, who's fit and not fit really irritating in football as well, because you try to build a run in a team and then somebody's out, or a player you're looking forward to seeing, especially in my position. I think, this weekend I can't wait to see that player. And then all of a sudden, they're out, or they have a niggle, or they're not fully fit. And it's so frustrating. But actually with this, it's been always, what's going to come out next? What's going to be the next interesting point? And also, we'll talk about Marinakis, and I'm sure you can ask about it, but I think Nuno's played his part in that as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think what I like about Marinakis is his ambition and it's his passion. He's a pantomime villain. And to be fair, if he said to us, we're going to be bottom of the Championship, but he'd be in the Premier League and be one of the most hated teams now in the Premier League, I'd snap your hand off for it. And look where we are. We're one of the most hated teams in the Premier League. But
do you think so? Do you think so?
The key word being there, Premier League, not in the Championship. Yes. I feel like Millwall are hated in the Championship. That's like whatever, innit? Do you know what I mean? So I admire the guy. He's put his money where his mouth is. He's very, very ambitious. I listened to an interview yesterday with him about Olympiacos, because they got a draw in the Champions League against Real Madrid, Arsenal, and I can't remember who the other big, massive team was. But he was like, we can go far in this competition because we won the Conference League. And I'm like, fair enough, mate. Like that is fair enough. And yeah, talking about Nuno, because obviously the last few weeks he's been very irritated by a lot of things, and mainly this story about him and Edu and what's going on. Although it's been quite quiet this week, and no news is good news, in my opinion. The main rumour seems to be around Nuno's wanting players that are going to be squad players like Adama Traore or Morato and Yates, and I kind of didn't really understand that point of view. If that was to be true, it wouldn't really make sense to me. But how do you see this relationship? Do you think it will get resolved?
It's interesting. I think it's always the battle of, if you're a manager, you think to yourself, okay, the club's making plans for 3 or 4 years down the line, maybe. Will I even be there? I could lose 3 or 4 games in a row and they kick me out. So he's trying to think, what can I do to put myself in a position to do as well as I can now? And you look at what clubs do around the league and the way they recruit, it's starting to feel like numbers is the key. Having a squad where you can bring in players. If you lose players, you can bring players in and your level doesn't drop too much. That's probably more important than trying to find the star player who's going to dominate your season, because actually that star player could be injured. And he clearly, I think, pointed out that the squad is lacking in certain areas of the pitch. He doesn't feel, obviously, he feels he needs another goalkeeper. He feels he needs fullbacks. And that feels quite clear. And not just in terms of thinking in case the starters get injured, in case Williams and Aina get injured, but also maybe to challenge them a bit or provide something a bit different, or in a match where, I think especially away from home, Forest seem to have a slightly different way of playing. I mean, we've seen it already this season. They're not going to be playing that almost free-flowing football that we saw against Brentford in the away games. That's quite clear. He recognises that's not going to be possible in most away games. So you might need a different type of fullback in those games. He might think, do we go for that centre-half fullback hybrid that I think Arsenal, for example, seem to buy 50 of? Those are the players that you think maybe that's a different type of player, or you just want that backup for Williams and Aina. And the manager's looking at it from that point of view, but maybe the club or Edu or Marinakis are also looking at the other side of it, maybe the Chelsea angle, which is, can we get a young player from Brazil? Can we get a young player, even from England, develop them, maybe sell them on in the future, or maybe produce players that will be great for us in the future? I'm not Nuno, obviously, except for this grey beard. But besides that, that's how I would feel in that position. And when you speak to football managers about this sort of stuff, that's what they care about. They care about the here and now. They might say in public, oh, it's great for the football club. In 5 years' time, they want players who are going to make an impact now. If a young player comes on and impresses, they're thinking, okay, but I need you to impress in the next match and the next match and the next match, right? There's no all well and good, you playing well for me now. I want you in the future. So if fans are calling for, oh, Abbott should play, maybe we should try Abbott out at fullback and this sort of thing. Nuno doesn't think that. He's just thinking, is Abbott ready now to start for me at fullback? Omar Richards, I don't want to give these players minutes, at this moment in time. I cannot give them minutes, so therefore they have to leave. I quite like, Nuno's been as revealing a manager as you can get really in football, I think. He's been so honest about players' roles in the team. Now, there'll be agents going around saying, oh, we shouldn't talk about my player like that. He's probably putting them down. Eric Da Silva Moreira. He's basically saying he's not really got a future at Forest, right? That's what he's saying. But that player might be thinking, hold on a minute, I might put other clubs off. Or Forest might think, hold on, we want people to buy these players. Don't talk them down. But I found it interesting in Nuno, and he's an experienced manager now. So he maybe sees the size. He's laying it out there for everybody. He's very calm in front of the media. He's laying it out there to say, these are the issues that I have. So I'm sure lots of people have said this. So if something goes wrong, you know why it went wrong.
Yeah. Do you ever think, because of the ambition of the owner, that there's always that pressure then on Nuno, because he might not have the time like Thomas Frank had at Brentford, or Andoni Herrera might get at Bournemouth, for say, or maybe Fabian Hurtzler will get at Brighton. I don't know if that's maybe what causes Nuno to act like that, because there's big pressure at Forest, which really, realistically, I think from an outsider's point of view, shouldn't really be there. It should be build a squad, let's have stability and go forward that way. Whereas Marinakis is like, no, I want to win now.
Yes.
I guess that's where it comes from.
Yeah, every taste of advancement that he sees from Forest, he's not thinking, oh, this is amazing. He's always thinking, right, okay, on to the next one, Because he is in a hurry, I guess, because that's his attitude as a businessman and somebody leading a football club. So we know in football it's never as easy as that. You can have a rise and fall in the click of a finger. So it does make it fascinating for the neutral to see, and it's quite a fun ride for Forest to be on. I think in Forest, to me, are far too good, and I can't believe it's so strange to say it now. They feel far too good to be involved in a relegation battle, right? You're going to come onto the West Ham game. You see trends in teams, and I like to see teams play a couple of games to get that sense. I can't see a world where Forest all of a sudden just go on a 15-game losing streak. Don't clip that up. But if they do that, but that feels like it's going to be tricky, whereas there are teams in the league we feel, well, that could happen. We could get themselves in that position. I also don't think Forest need to be going on 10-match winning runs to be in the Champions League mix, because it's going to be competitive. Teams are going to be dropping points. And that's actually how Forest were in the mix last season. Keep that consistent home form. I think because the owner has been so upfront with his ambitions, I think in a weird way that's loosened Nuno to be freer with his views. What's the point of being quiet about it when your owner isn't quiet about it? You should be able to go, well, okay, this is the attitude of the club. I can be honest and be frank, because I think Marinakis probably wants that from him deep down. He probably works in the mode of, I just want people to tell me stuff. So what's the problem, Nuno? And he goes, well, we haven't got a right back. We haven't got a keeper. Right, no problem. Right, Edu, can you get me a couple of wingers, some attacking midfielders? But and then Nuno goes, well, I did tell him. But at the same time, Marinakis wants to know this stuff, That's probably I think certain personalities can rub off on others and make them feel that way. And I think Nuno's a very emotionally intelligent guy, and he probably feels, I'm a bit freer to speak like this. Whereas if he was maybe at a Brentford or a Brighton, maybe, as we saw with De Zerbi, maybe being that outspoken character doesn't work at those clubs because they don't come across in that way. They're a lot more measured in their approach. Like, this is how we work here. We don't need a big personality dominating things. We just need someone to be professional and go about their business. I think Marinakis wants more personality out of Nuno.
Yeah, maybe. It's a funny one. I just thought like the interview we did on Sky before we played Brentford was a bit odd because we hadn't that interview was clearly filmed before the CAS verdict had come through, and I think like an intelligent manager like Nuno would have known, well, we've not made X, Y, and Z signing because we don't know which competition we're going to be in. How do you know what you're selling to a footballer if you're going to be in the Conference League or the Europa League? We got that CAS verdict within maybe an hour. We got Fabrizio Romano saying that James McAtee's on his way to Forest. So it clearly was a stumbling block that we had to get past before players could come in. And I think
he did repeat it though afterwards, did he, in the presser? So
yeah, very hard.
His mind. Yeah. He hadn't. I don't think he's wavered, and I don't think he wavered after. I think it was after the Palace game. But he was still talking about the idea of bringing players in just in different positions. Yeah. Maybe that was part of it. Maybe he knew that these players were coming in, and he actually thought, maybe this could give me a problem here. I know people aren't hot on our knee, for example, but we're bringing in another striker, and then we're bringing in attacking midfielder and a winger. We've already replaced Elanga. We haven't had that many departures in key areas, but we're bringing in more attacking players. This is something that I need to work out. How am I going to give McAtee the minutes he needs? How is Hutchinson going to get in the team week in, week out if everybody's fit? Whereas he maybe looks in other positions and goes, during the game, I might want to rotate my defence. I might want to put in a fullback. This is not me giving an opinion on how Forest should be. This is Nuno's approach, how he's thinking about it. If he has a system where he's playing 3 centre-backs, if he has a system where he's playing 2 centre-backs, all these things play into this. So, but it's not always, buying defenders isn't sexy, is it? And buying,
it's just not. Marilo Milenkovic.
It is when once they're in, people go, blimey, what have we got here? But the excitement now, if you're linked to a centre half now, you're probably thinking, okay, just adding more squad depth, even if they could go on to be hot shot. If you bring a striker, a wide player, you think, if there's options, they could come off the bench and make an impact. It's just different. The attitude's different. That's how I see it. So, like I said, certain clubs operate in different ways, don't they? Look, Chelsea buy winger after winger, and you think, where's their defenders? Arsenal buy defender after defender, and you think, where's their wingers? And then you come. This is it. We're always looking for spots and teams and go, wow, that's what they need. They need that. Manager thinks differently. So
just on that little, I feel a little bit sorry for Arteta. He's going to have a huge dilemma at right wing when you've got Saka and Neweri and Max Talman to pick from. Like, who do you pick there? They're all ridiculous.
And Madueke. Yeah.
You made a really good point anyway about fullback, because we are looking to bring in another Nicola in Savona from Juventus.
Sounds like it's been confirmed, doesn't it?
It more or less has seemed like he was on his way from Turin back. So 2 players from Juventus coming in. So at least Douglas Luiz has got a mate as well as all the other Brazilians. But
Juventus mate.
I mean, it's
I like that.
Funny. It's funny though. Like, you've got Nikola Milenkovic, Nico Williams, Nicolas Dominguez, and this Nico Savola. I mean, like, what? That's gonna. They're gonna have to be like 1, 2, and 3, and 4, aren't they, in the changing room or something? But yeah. I did want to talk to you about our squad, because obviously you commentated on our Brentford game where we won 3-1, and that bench was 4 centre backs, a goalkeeper, I think Taiwo Awoniyi, a winger or something, and I can't remember who else. I think Yates is our only midfield option. The comparison this weekend, for you to commentate in the West Ham game, Seb, is going to look like chalk and cheese. I mean. Yeah. That's a huge boost for Forest last season, because obviously last season that was probably our Achilles heel, would you not say?
Yeah. But when you do look at that bench, you still think, are they short at the back in reserve? Bolly's still knocking around. That sounded really rude the way I said that.
He's great.
We just started knocking around. Yeah. Oh, they're still here. Well, actually,
he's
quite
part of the Vibes car. He's angler as the Vibes cartel man.
Absolutely. What a presence, what a man. But you do still think, they need to bring. I think benches probably help. Benches help what we're talking about. Looking at where are we short on the bench, and you think, oh right, actually, our attacking options are really good now. We got Hutchinson and McAtee and Igor Jesus, and then we have Callum Wendo as well, who's come in, and you think, oh, actually, we have options off the bench. But then you think defensively, if you're going to lose one of those centre halves, that's a big deal. But then that's the level of the centre halves. It's going to be tough to find players at that level. And then are they going to want to go? It feels ripe to go for another young player, but then Mourinho's not that old himself, so I actually think it's a good place. I think it's a good place, and it sounds like they're going to bring in defensive players, but the squad looks good. I think the squad looks good. Now, good is always measured by what's the ambition of the team. Weirdly, I think probably Marinakis' ambitions are more advanced than supporters are, which is quite a rare. It's quite a rare situation, yeah. I think if Marinakis came out, I expect us to have a Premier League title challenge. And all supporters are going, yeah, all right, mate. That would be the attitude, wouldn't it? But he's thinking, yeah. If he came out with that, you wouldn't be surprised he would say that. But you'd be very surprised to find a Forest supporter who would then turn around and go, yeah, do you know what? He's right. But that's a team that will be aiming for, at very least, to be getting involved in the lower European places in terms of an ambition. If Forest were to finish 13th, 14th, I think sports probably would look at it as a bit frustrating season because of what the level's been raised, hasn't it? And what we've seen from other teams. I think you have to go. I think it's quite a good thing as a supporter to look at the other teams in the league and start ticking off teams and thinking, are we better than them? And going through these teams based not on just their squad roster, but seeing them play and think, are we better than them? So when you face Palace, for example, who have had these extra European games out of nowhere, they weren't expecting to play, but they had those, around your fixture, and they have Villa as well. They played last night, and they played a strong team last night, as in they fielded a strong 11. Palace on their day and Forest on their day, it's a tough one to call, based on if they really not, but then Palace have lost players. So that's the sort of thing you think, right, okay, should we be finishing miles ahead of Palace? Maybe in ambition-wise, but practically, maybe not. And then you start to adjust your expectation a bit. But we'll see. Yeah,
definitely. Obviously, you commentating on the Brentford game, you must have been shocked and nearly fell off your chair when you saw the stat that we'd got above 55% possession. And probably saw a different brand of football that we're all.
Well, not against Brentford, but yeah. Well, I was so impressed. I was turned to Don a few times and a few little moments in the game, and I wasn't sat down. A few minutes ago, I did look across the room and then I sort of did a face. So, whoa, this is good. This is good. As in the moments, some of the build-up play, particularly with Anderson and Gibbs-White, I just thought they're on it here. And I've seen them have moments like that before, but it felt like a longer period of the match, especially in that first half that they were doing it, longer spells. Because these are top-class players. When I watch the England friendly and Senegal one, even though England lost the game, there's a moment towards the back end of that game when Eze was on the pitch, Gibbs, White, Rodgers, and Bellingham. And those players were popping the ball around one touch. I think England had a goal disallowed. And Gibbs White is in that group, and he's at that level. He's able to play at that level. And we're seeing from Anderson that he has that in him as well. So when you have a teammate who has that in you, I think Gibbs White probably looks at Hudson-Odoi and thinks, I know you have that in you as well, because I remember it from back in the day. That they have it in that they have confidence. So if they're going to play it, if he's going to play a one-touch pass and he's on the move, he thinks, this player's going to get it back to me. Sometimes if you're in a team, am I going to get it back from this player? You don't feel that confidence. And that's why I think Sangare played well, because when he's not being harried and rushed and put under pressure and having to cover lots of ground, he's a player who can get on the ball and be a platform so that these players get high up the pitch and make things happen. So when it's working and you have wingers and you have a striker who can take chances, it looks great.
Do you know with Forest making these extra additions though, and maybe looking like they want to keep the ball a little bit more, but obviously having that ace up their sleeve with certain teams where you know that this team can sit in and hit you on the counter attack. That's quite a frightening thing to think about for other managers in this league, where you go, well, if we give Forest the ball, they're looking like they can start knowing what to do with it now, because last season we didn't. And then also, if we press them, we know they can sit in and take pressure and hit us on the counter attack. So it's at least we're giving another a string to our bow. It's going to be quite exciting, I think, to see how it unfolds.
What was good about the Brentford game is those are the games last season that you were dropping points in.
Yeah,
because you play against a team who would play a system whereby, they weren't just all over you in attacking sense, and they weren't sitting really deep, but they were engaging you at a certain point in the pitch, and the points dropped to the back end of the season. There were a lot of frustrating results in there where Forest being picked off in games. Beating Manchester City in that run and then having a draw against Leicester, annoying. When you're in that, you want to be in that process, and you think, all right, okay, in those bigger games we can mix it. If we lose 1-0, win 1-0, whatever. But if we're at home to a side who's already relegated or is in a relegation mix, and we're at home and we're good at home, these are the games that we go out and we just win these games. Or because football is funny, or we show something that on a day where we go, well, we should have won that game with the way we played. You don't want to be thinking, oh, we're struggling to break this team down or couldn't find the magic touch. At home, especially, because I think Nuno won't have that approach away from home. I just get that sense. At home, hopefully we see that from Forest. And this weekend's game is a prime example of being able to showcase that. And let's see if they do it.
Yeah, definitely. I did want to ask you about Elliot Anderson's pass. Don Goodman quoted it as it could be pass of the season already. And I mean, I don't know if you've seen it back on the replay, but Chris Wood's already running, like to make his run before Elliot Anderson's passed the ball, sort of thing. But I wanted to ask you about his chances of making an England squad. As we record this, Thomas Tuchel was going to announce his England squad today on the Friday, after our Europa League draw, to be fair. So there's not too much news to report on, but. Yeah, what do you make of Elliot Anderson? Because I've really been banging the drum for a while on his case. My display picture is of Elliot Anderson. That's how sad I am. I'm such a big fan of a 22-year-old as a 33-year-old man.
It's interesting. It's a position in the England team that I think is still waiting to be grabbed by somebody. But it depends on the opposition. He could play, he's got Andorra. He can play Declan Rice on his own and have two attacking midfielders who are going to get in the box and be further up pitch. But I think from England, from a tournament point of view, who is going to be that third midfielder in that three if England end up being in that role? We know that Declan Rice is going to start for England. Who is going to be with him? And that's important from Anderson, because I don't think he's going to be in Tuchel's thoughts as far as being in that position behind the strikers, or that, Bellingham's role, Palmer's role, Rodgers, whoever these players, Foden, if he comes back into that domain. That's a tricky one for Anderson to be in that mix, because he's also got Gibbs White there as well. And Eze, I mean, he's gone to Arsenal now. He could kick on and be in that. So it's really, really competitive. But in a more withdrawn role, he's showing situation where I'm looking around thinking, well, who's better at that? I think obviously Adam Wharton gets a lot of praise, but I actually think Anderson's more robust than Wharton. I feel like he's got a bit more, he just looks a bit more, he can deal with a rough and tumble, and obviously injury record is better. So that could play a part. He's in a good place. I think he would feel disappointed if he's not called up, because if he's not called up, it means that Gallagher's been called up, or Jordan Henderson was in the last squad.
Yeah.
So that's. But there's more to it. Managers, they want personalities. I feel like he would be a great personality to have in the England camp, and he would be somebody who could take to that. And he's been in the England setup now. There was talk a few years ago about him being with Scotland, and that's completely gone away now. Probably because he's playing so well that the FA don't let him go. he's a fulcrum of that under-21 side that's been successful. And now this feels like the step for him. That pass, by the way, that was one of those moments where you're so engrossed by the pass that the finish, what happens after that, it just feels irrelevant.
And it was still a good finish from Chris Wood as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Wood's got his second. Yeah. But I was just like, what a ball that was. And it goes back to what I was saying about the trust in your team, because if Wood's on the move, he knows that Anderson's going to play that ball. It's part of the plan, and he knows he can execute it. If you've got a player who is dictating play and is able to move around the pitch like that, perfect for international football. You want multifaceted players in your midfield area in a team, especially the way England are. You want a player in that area, and I sincerely hope he's in the squad. I feel like if I was picking a squad, he'd be in it all day long.
Yeah, I mean, he was playing for Scotland through the youth groups, and I think the FA seen and identified and said, hang on a minute, you're actually a Geordie, why are you playing for Scotland? Let's play for England instead.
But being good. He plays a big part in that.
He must have had a conversation and said, well, where's my path leading? And they go, well, maybe we see you as a central midfielder in our team, potentially next to Declan Rice, fighting with Adam Wharton for that spot. And I think it's healthy competition. I think Adam Wharton is a lovely footballer. They both weren't even the best player on the pitch last week. I actually thought we used to outshine both of them.
Yeah. You're supposed to whisper that, Adam.
I know, and that's the worst thing. He's an ex-Derby player, so but I'm honest. Moving on to West Ham though, Seb. Obviously, they've lost their first 3 games, including the league, two in the league, one in the League Cup. They lost to Sunderland opening day at the stadium of 3-0, and then lost 5-1 at home to Chelsea. Chelsea might dish out a few hammers this season and look actually quite good, but it's going to be a long season for West Ham if they don't sort things out. I know they're trying to get a few deals done before the weekend to give them a boost, but Graham Potter looks like on borrowed time.
Well, we'll find out today if someone like Fernandes or something is able to get registered in time. I can't really see it, but things date quickly, so let's wait and see. They are bringing in central midfielders. I think Magassa from Monaco is another one. They're looking to address that area. They obviously they were after this player called Sangare at Forest. I think they were trying to get him over the line. I think they sort of maybe seeing that as an opportunity because they've seen Douglas Luiz come in, and they're thinking Sangare is becoming one of the more senior players in the squad age-wise. So they're thinking, okay, but he's still in his prime. He's in his prime, so maybe we can just nick him. Maybe Forest will let him go. I imagine his wage. I don't know his wages, but I imagine his wages aren't low. So I think let's see if we can take him. That's why that opportunity arose, and they do need a player in that area. I think the West Ham midfield, it just felt, and I don't like saying this about players, but it's all relative. Remember, it's always relative because it's the Premier League. They look slow against Chelsea. They couldn't really get around the pitch, which meant there was so much covering for certain players to do. And when those players do that covering, it can show them up. So like Wan-Bissaka, he was out of position in lots of different areas, but he was having to cover so much ground. He was that right side. He was having to get him up in the attack, get back in defence. Sometimes he really deep, having to defend in his own box. Just a tricky situation to say the least. They're not in a great place. I think their better players are still being linked with moves away. Jarrod Bowen had an altercation with supporters at the back end of the League Cup tie. Had to come out and apologise about that. That's never a good look either. There's question marks about their recruitment, about the ownership. They've lost key figures in terms of personality. Antonio was a big personality in the club. He's no longer there. Paquetá has had the relief of being cleared with the accusations, but I'm sure in these closing days, there's going to be people trying to test to see if they can get him out because he's a top player. Beginning of last season, I looked at West Ham and I thought, their forward line looks really good. Fulkrug up front, Bowen, Kudus and Paquetá. Somerville are rated as a talent as well. And they can bring Antonio off the bench and it looked good. And it's just, things just change. And their recruitment in the deeper midfield areas has not worked. Rodriguez could be on his way out already. So it feels absolutely prime this weekend for a really shaky, rocky West Ham United to go to the City ground and get battered. But the way football works, that's the unease that comes into people. They think, hold on a minute, they're prime here. They're prime. If Forest played the way they did against Brentford, they will comfortably beat West Ham. But can they do it? That's, to me, the big question mark, because then the feel-good factor will be so strong because they'll have had a strong transfer window, I think. They'll have won both their home games impressively. They'll have gone to Selhurst Park, which is an easy place to go, and got something from there, and feel confident that we can have a good season with European games to come.
Yeah, West Ham are a funny one, like you said. I mean, there'll be fans listening to this, and one of my colleagues, Christian, he'll be saying, "Well, that's 1-0 West Ham, then, isn't it? Like they're going to beat it." And I think Forest fans have still not got rid of the PTSD of like doing a Forest, like where it looks like prime. We're going to get 3 points. It's going to be an easy game. We'll win 3 or 4-0.
Yeah, but you're playing a team who are they're masters at that. You know, doing a West Ham, they're the masters of it. They will say, will that negate Forest believe that they're the masters at it? You know.
Yeah.
So
I think the mood will be pretty high anyway, because we'll know what we're getting in the Europa League. I think tomorrow we get the fixture order and who we're playing when and everything, and everyone will be excited about that. And I think the excitement will just be, we're back at home. It's an opportunity to get another 3 points and really start the season well. Last season, I think we got 5 points before the international break. So if we get a win, we're ahead of what we did last season already, which is brilliant. So it really lends itself to be a perfect game for us, just to go into the national break and have it good. And I don't think a lot of our players will get called up. I know all the Brazilian guys haven't been called up, so it's a good opportunity to bed more players into our system. I don't know about if Hutchinson and McAtee will go away with England and 21s, but yeah, good opportunity to bed in some of the new boys. How do you see the game going, Seb? Do you see it as a straightforward win if you're going to play it on paper, I guess?
Yeah. I was really underwhelmed by West Ham because I did the Friday night football. Just there wasn't much to hang your hat on and say they're going to be a side who can pick up lots of points this season based on that. I do think they've got, I mentioned the England-Senegal game. One of the eye-catching players in that was Diouf, who's the left wing back. But if West Ham aren't playing well, he's going to struggle because he's just come into the league. He's a young player who wants to be part of. You could see it in the Chelsea game when they 5-1 down. He started making a few errors himself and was out of position. So it catches and the body language of players. So all it would take is if Forest get an early goal, it could be a match that ends 3 or 4. If it stays tight for a long period of time, then of course West Ham, they've got players in that team who can hurt Forest. It just doesn't feel right at the moment. Will Forest be the team that West Ham all of a sudden get that kick and they're on the board? Who knows? It just feels there's not a lot of goodness there. Even Paquetá scored an amazing goal at the start of that game, and it's just quashed within 10 minutes. And it's just, after that, they have a goal disallowed. It's not going to happen. Potter's getting short with journalists after the game. It just feels that nothing is going right. And when teams are in that situation, you have to believe, from Forest's point of view, these are the teams you beat. You just beat these teams when they're in this situation. They'll need to have a home game where they find it, or they need to be backs to the wall, heroic performance to sit deep and keep you out. Do West Ham have that in them, or is Forest midfield just going to run all over them? That area feels like the area where the game can be won. Now, on the flip side, I'm trying to find something to add to your own anxiety about it. I could say, Paquetá, will he pick up positions that Forest players can't cover? That area in front of the defenders. He's not going to engage with his centre-backs who are going to have good fun with Fulkrug, for example. Can Bowen get running at that defence? Maybe is Diouf going to be able to force back Aina in a way? I think there's some question marks about Aina's fitness in the last game. Whatever it might be, there's little things. It's a Premier League game that could happen, but you have to look at the whole picture. And it feels like a game where Forest can enjoy themselves.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to deny that West Ham don't have quality. Jarrod Bowen's an excellent footballer. the unfortunate thing for him, he's been handcuffed by like his in-laws basically, who are Daddy Dyer, Double Dyer, yeah. So he's absolutely done it. The funny thing is, you say Double Dyer, we've nicknamed me and my friends have nicknamed Hudson-Odoi and Doy Double Doy. And the fact that they combined last week for the goal against Palace was literally like chef's kiss type thing. I just can't.
Will I try and use that? Will I try and use that Double Doy?
Yes, please do. That'd be great. If you can, I'd be absolutely. If you can get Double Doy into your commentary on Sunday, it's like I don't know if you ever seen on Soccer Saturday. They got like Merson to do a thing where they got loads of Oasis tracks into like it's like pre-match or whatever, and it was great. So yeah.
Well, no, it made me think Chelsea last week. They had Joao Pedro and Pedro Neto. He was like Joao Pedro Neto. The same person.
I like that.
I do like that.
Obviously, as we speak, Seb, our Europa League draw is going to happen today later on. This is the confirmed draw and pots now. I just wanted your opinion on.
I mean, I might as well be looking. It's like that shot of it's like trying to pick out numbers.
Well, not your opinion. So So I've asked this with loads of guests. So it's a team from each pot you'd like to go away to. So you'd be commentating. Where would you like to go? A team from each pot.
Yeah, well, I base it more on. I think Ibrox would be tasty. Obviously, that would be a good one to do. You want to go to Rome. That's always a great fit, especially if you've not been in Europe for a long time. That's a good old away trip. I'm going through these teams. There's something I like about all of them. That's the problem. I'm looking at that going, I mean, maybe look, you can't play Villa, can you? So you're looking at that and you're thinking, Salzburg going there it's not that fun, is it? So take that out of the equation. That's not as interesting. I don't know if going to Feyenoord, but then that could be a great, night's drinking, couldn't it?
Yeah, a little night in Rotterdam.
Netherlands. Yeah, it'd be it could be Rotterdam or anywhere else. Porto is one of my favourite places to go just to visit. It's got great food. It's really chilled out. It depends what sort of vibe you're in. I would say if you just went and then, Ibrox, I think because Forest haven't been in Europe for so long, it's just anything would feel exciting. Seville, great city. Zagreb could be tasty as well. That could be a good angle to it. And then Lille's a nice little town to go, and it's a nice new stadium. I would say, though, I think for a team who haven't been in Europe for a long time, I think the trip to Rome is the one.
Okay, from pot one, Rome.
Followed by Porto, but trip to Rome, I think.
Yeah, and then what about pot 2, 3, or 4? Where would you like to go as well?
Oh, you'll go Turkey.
One team from each. One team from each. Well, Mourinho's not there at Turkey, in Fenerbahce no more. It's become boring. Fans are crazy.
But that just feels Europe, though, doesn't it? Going away. Going away.
Turkey or Belgrade.
Yeah, it does. Well, to be fair, look at that, Fenerbahce as well. All those, they feel like a few of those look like, nice stag do destinations as well. Pilsen's right up there. I mean, Lyon feels apt.
It'd be fun.
Yeah, I think for fan banter, Lyon wouldn't be the worst place to go. But I think the Turkey trip for me. Obviously, Tel Aviv will keep that one out of the equation. But yeah, Fenerbahce, that's the one of that pot for sure.
And then what about pot 3 and 4?
I went to Bern in the summer, actually. There's a nice little sports bar that is down in a cellar. So young boys
wanked off on a Thursday. Fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you got 2 Swiss teams in there. So it's always nice to go to Nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think just to mix up after coming back from Turkey, I think Nice might be a nice one.
There. I've been.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Ludogorets. You want to have a place. There's also a place that you got to think of, a place you'd never go on holiday to put it in the mix. So
Midtjylland then probably.
Yeah. Well, Ludogorets, yeah. I think let's just do Ludogorets just to be really random.
Okay, and then what about pot 4? Some nice ones in pot 4. To be fair.
Bologna.
Genk would be a great drinking place.
Yeah. This is what you want from this place.
I don't even drink it even. I think it sounds nice.
They'll be dancing on the street of Go Ahead Eagles, yeah. Yeah, so Malmo, I think going to a good fan experience is going to Germany. So I know it sounds strange, but going to one of the German stadiums is always worth it for a fan. You get treated well, good atmospheres, good facilities, usually good transport links, although the trains weren't great when I was at the men's Euros. So let's mix up and say Stuttgart.
Nice. That sounds good. Good choices, I think. Mainly based on drinking destinations.
I know. I didn't want to say. This is the problem, isn't it? You just culturally all you're thinking as a Brit abroad is where's the pub, which is
now I know how you get your raspy voice. It's from all the
the whiskey. Oh yeah,
it's from the ale or whiskies. Yeah, like
I'm in Ludogorets today. That sounds like Sean Dyche there.
Yeah. Just to round off, Seb, I would love a red hot take, whether that's Premier League or Forest. I gave you an example, which Mason, who comes on here, he predicted Matt Sells to get 10 plus clean sheets, ended up getting the Golden Glove with David Raya, which I don't think anyone could have predicted. So it was a great red hot take from him. So what's your one?
Can I do two?
Of course.
That are absolutely really, you burn yourself just being near them. You don't even have to touch these hit takes. One is that Gibbs, White and Anderson will start an England game together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the other one, which is, because I'm going really extreme here, that Forest will lose 2 home games in this campaign. One to the team that wins the title and the other to a side in the bottom half.
Okay.
That's it.
I'll take that, because if you only lose 2 at home, you've doing pretty well, aren't you, really?
Yeah, that's what I can do. I'm just trying to picture.
And as long as it's not Liverpool that are the title winners.
Hey, I didn't say who. That's the thing. I
know.
I can see. That could be a big place where team the title race to win at the City Ground will be worth, a lot. In the way that Liverpool beat Newcastle, when you think about it and you think, them winning that game is a big one. What I found interesting is I don't know when this Bobby Moore picture started to fall down. I hope it wasn't when I mentioned Gibbs, White and Anderson being the England team.
I'm not sure either.
That wasn't alone, but so I'm able to check back and go, whatever I was talking about at the time when it fell off, that was quite apt. But I do have the programme from the City Ground down there with Gibbs White on the front.
Hopefully the viewers are watching, the audio listeners can tune in to see that. I should have asked you actually about the Europa League. How far do you see Forest going when you've looked at all them pots, by the way?
Yeah, you look at all those teams and they can push on and get deep into the tournament. People talk about this balance of trying to balance the Premier League with the Europa League. It'll be interesting to see if they're in the latter stages, what way they goes, and that will put my home match record under threat, obviously. But I don't know. It's not a red hot take. Like a sneaky suspicion that Villa and Forest are going to draw each other before the final, which would be a shame, but also be quite the pair of games if it happens in a semi-final or a quarter-final. That would be interesting to see. Let's say, just to make ourselves feel nice and balanced here, let's just say the quarter-final, and then that way we think the semi-final. Wow. Yeah, let's see. But look at last season. A poor Man United and a poor Spurs got to that final. The Champions League teams don't drop into it anymore. These teams are a level below what's happening in the Champions League. And even in the Champions League, I don't think there's that many great teams, actually. No. So you have to believe. And the question's also going to be, I bet Marinakis is thinking, we win this year, Nuno.
Yeah. He probably
get me a right back.
He'll be in Monaco still today. And he'll get an interview and he'll be like, "Yeah, we're going to win this." Like, what are you on about? Like, honestly, he will. Like, he's just that type of guy, and I love him for it. Like, it's great. So thank you very much for coming on again on the pod. We really appreciate your time. What games have you coming up after Forest West Ham that you're commentating on. And have you got any other things to plug?
Do you know what? I don't want to plug, but I'm just checking if I have Forest again, because where are we now? I don't think I have Forest next month. And I don't think your League Cup tie would be chosen as one of the main games. I get a strong feeling I'm going to be going to Lincoln for that, or Port Vale to Stoke for that. So, because I think Port Vale have Arsenal and Lincoln have Chelsea. So those feel like those are the ties you'd pick, wouldn't you, really, in the League Cup?
Decent games, decent games.
Yeah. And, you can't discount anything after what I saw at Grimsby.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, every football fan in the country was probably watching that, except for Man United Sports, obviously, and enjoying every minute of how that night played out, I think.
One of my favourite quotes I've seen from that, someone saw the rain and was like, you don't get this in the Premier League. And was like, the weather does not change in England. It doesn't. That makes no sense.
But at the same time, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It does.
It was brilliant.
It doesn't.
It was so funny. Brilliant. No, thank you very much. Nothing to plug, you sure? No podcast?
No, I don't. No, I don't. No, I'm not a plug. I just watch the games and enjoy them.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Thank you very much, Seb. Really enjoyed it. If anyone else enjoyed it, do like and subscribe. And if you want early access to the pods, do consider membership. But until next time, we'll be seeing you for the Europa League draw. If you're catching up on that Europa League draw anyway, but that will be live. So, but until then, come on, you Reds.